Tonight on NewsWatch, British lawmakers back away from a strike. Will the U.S. push ahead with plans in Syria?
Plus, a look at why many Christians in Syria say U.S. military action would not be good for believers in that country.
And over-criminalization in America. We have the story of one man threatened with jail time because of dead birds. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. 426 children were among the 1,429 people killed in Syria's chemical weapon attack. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. The Obama administration reports there is human and satellite evidence to prove the Syrian government used a chemical nerve agent in those attacks.
Despite the numbers and evidence, the nation is divided on what the U.S. should do. An NBC poll shows 50% of Americans oppose an attack and 79% want congressional approval. CBN's Heather Sells has our top story tonight.
The White House has already begun courting members of Congress, hoping to make the case that the Syrian government used chemical weapons against its own people, and that it must be punished. The administration briefed members by phone last night, but did not convince everyone.
There is no policy, there is no strategy, and there is no end game here.
I'm really disappointed in our commander-in-chief. He's put the nation and he's put himself in a very tough situation.
Overnight, the U.S. lost the support of its closest ally. The British Parliament voted against taking any military action against Syria.
It is clear to me that the British Parliament, reflecting the views of the British people, does not want to see British military action. I get that, and the government will act accordingly.
The U.S. may be able to act in coordination with France, whose president says that Syria must be punished. If the U.S. acts, it will not have any formal support from the UN. That's because Russia blocked efforts to pass a resolution authorizing the use of force. Today, UN chemical weapons experts are on the ground in Syria, hoping to determine whether or not chemical weapons were used. Experts believe their evidence could also help to discover just who deployed the gases. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Brad Jacob, a constitutional law associate professor with Regent University, joins us now with more. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. Talk a little bit about the process of taking action. What exactly does the Constitution say?
Well, the Constitution did something new when our country was founded. In England, the king had all the power when it came to military action. He declared war. He was commander-in-chief. He decided when troops would be used. But those who wrote our Constitution thought that was too much power in the executive, so they deliberately split it. They gave Congress the power to declare war, which meant to initiate offensive military action, as well as control of the budget. And the president is commander-in-chief, so he gets to decide when to use troops. It's supposed to be a balance so that the people's representatives in Congress have a voice in any decision about military force.
Well, what about the War Powers Act and how presidents have used that through the years?
The War Powers Act, which was passed back in the Nixon administration because of Vietnam, actually captures the balance pretty well. It says that the president may use troops if there's been a declaration of war, which of course hasn't happened since 1941, but could still happen, or if Congress authorizes it with a statute, or for a reasonable period of time, a couple months, if there is an actual or imminent attack on United States property, territory, people. The president, obviously, as commander-in-chief, can move quickly to defend the United States of America and its people. But the War Powers Act is supposed to keep the president from putting troops out in situations where there is no threat to the United States unless Congress debates it and comes to a conclusion. Now, the problem is, every president since Nixon has argued that they're not bound by the War Powers Act. And so they may follow its terms or they may not, but they claim it has no legal effect on them.
Well, what are the implications here at home if the U.S. were to strike in Syria?
Well, if the U.S. were to strike in Syria, number one, we're committing money. We're committing various sorts of military hardware to that effort. A lot will depend on what happens next. Does that escalate? Does it become a bigger conflict? Do we end up with, as the president likes to say, boots on the ground? But either way, the decision to do military force against another nation is a really serious question when we're not being threatened. And I think it's hard to make the case that Syria is a threat to the United States of America at this point. That's why Congress is supposed to be able to make that decision. As you just noted in the story a few minutes ago, Americans are divided. Americans really disagree about whether this is the right thing to do. So Congress should vote.
Okay. Brad Jacob with Regent University. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Mark. My pleasure.
Wendy.
Mark, Syrian Christians say U.S. military action against the Assad regime will only bring them greater hardship and suffering. As CBN's Gary Lane reports, they're asking Christians around the world to pray that God intervenes to bring peace to their nation.
As Syrians brace themselves for a possible United States military attack, many of the country's Christians are praying for divine intervention. They believe the collective prayers of Christians around the world could reverse an escalating conflict. I talked by phone with a Syrian pastor who resides in the U.S. but travels regularly to Syria. He's in constant contact with Christians inside the country. He asked that we not give his name or show his face in order to protect him and other Syrian Christians from retribution by militant Islamists.
The Christians are living in fear right now in Syria. We know what might happen, and we see the consequence of that, such an action by the U.S. and NATO. That will be a destruction for the Christians in the Middle East, and specifically in Syria.
That's because they say any U.S.-led military attack will only strengthen militant Islamists who have already targeted Christians.
Once NATO hit Syria, that means they're going to weaken the structure and the rule of the system of Syria is going to be destroyed. That means what's going to come next is the Sharia law. And the Sharia law is very much against the existence of Christianity in that part of the world.
Militant Islamists have already forced many Christians out of the country. Others have been murdered or kidnapped, and churches have been destroyed. While many Syrian Christians feel President Obama has abandoned them, they know God has not.
Obama, he cared less for the Christian in Syria and the Christian around the world. We know God has given promises that God's gonna protect the Christian community in Syria. And our trust is not in any powers, not in the regime, not in the U.S., and no one else. Our trust in God himself, that he sees and he hears the cries of the Christians.
And that's why it's crucial, this pastor says, that Christians pray for their Syrian brothers and sisters in Christ, because it's more than a battle for the survival of the Syrian church.
This is a battle between Jesus Christ and the enemy himself. And what's happening, the Christians in the Middle East, will happen eventually to many Christians around the world, and specifically to the West.
So Syrian Christians say pray, but they know the outcome is not in the hands of Bashar al-Assad or those who oppose him.
God is not going to go work with anybody's agenda. He's going to work for his own agenda and the purpose of the growing of the kingdom of God.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
And for more of Gary's coverage, check out his blog, The Global Lane, and you can find that on our website, cbnnews.com.
The conflict in Syria is causing crude oil prices to increase. With that, national gas prices jumped nearly 2 cents on Thursday. AAA says that's the biggest daily jump in over a month, and it comes as Americans get ready to hit the road for the Labor Day weekend. Even so, gas prices are still about 27 cents cheaper than they were a year ago. AAA estimates more than 29 million Americans will travel for the holiday.
Well, married same-sex couples now have the right to the same tax benefits as heterosexual couples. It's part of a new regulation from the Treasury Department and the IRS. Couples will be able to file federal joint tax returns even if the state where they live does not recognize their marriage. The move comes on the heels of the recent Supreme Court ruling, which invalidated part of the Defense of Marriage Act.
Coming up, people from around the world descend on Dallas. CBN News brings you a look at the T.D. Jakes ministry event known as MegaFest.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes now.
In 2008, my husband Gary departed for heaven. I was still grieving. And then to find out I had cancer, I began praying, God, how do I do this? Where do I do this? Cancer Treatment Centers of America was the place. Dr. Neelam outlined a plan that would take care of my mind and my body, and she prayed with me.
For Bible-believing Christians, we're able to pray with them in a much deeper way as they begin to really rely upon their faith.
At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we believe in the power of faith and prayer as indispensable allies in the fight against complex and advanced stage cancer.
I'm back in Telluride on the mountain skiing. I feel strong and healthy.
Advanced medicine and technology.
And I am a survivor.
The warm embrace of the Spirit and the power of prayer.
These are happy tears.
Please go to cancercenter.com/faith. Appointments available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
A mob of 1,000 people destroyed a church building and attacked its pastor in northern India. Gospel for Asia reports the congregation has been trying to build the church for more than 2 years, but construction has been slowed by local opposition. Earlier this week, rumors began to spread of the Christians' quote, culturally offensive practices. The pastor once again stopped the project, but this time the mob tore the church down. Then they beat the pastor, his mother, and other church members. The village has a history of violence against Christians. 4 other pastors have been driven away.
Some 50,000 people have descended upon the city of Dallas, Texas. They came from across the globe to attend something called MegaFest. The massive Christian conference is sponsored by Pastor and Bishop T.D. Jakes' mega church. As our Ephraim Graham reports, it's a lot of fun with a great purpose.
Bishop T.D. Jakes is a popular pastor across the country and around the world. And as the headline in this newspaper says, this is going to be big. MegaFest 2013 essentially brings all of his popular conferences home here to Dallas, Texas. We're talking Manpower, Women That Are Loose, as well as Mega Youth, all essentially under one roof. And Bishop Jakes has called upon some pretty big names in the entertainment industry
information that they want from us
to help him pull an even bigger crowd.
I'm like a little kid, you know, ready to open a present because I know it's something there for me. So, like, I can't wait.
I love Women That Are Loose. I've attended that, but I've never attended MegaFest, and I wanted something where my family could come together, my husband, my kids, and it's an awesome experience. I mean, it's big, it's a lot, but it's awesome.
This conference has drawn some 50,000 people from around the world. It was last held in Atlanta in 2006. And many of those regulars have actually made the journey to Texas to be a part of this.
We drove, we didn't fly, and we rented a car that's really fuel efficient. So we're cutting costs. We're doing all right. We're doing all right.
Can't comprehend that when we dance we're not crazy.
Gospel recording artist Jonathan McReynolds is among the exhaustive list of talent performing here at MegaFest.
It's always the first time for me. So, if I was at MegaFest, it's the first time I'm at MegaFest. If I'm at Convocation, it's the first time I'm at Convocation. So it's always just a little bit, intimidating for me. But not just because it's MegaFest and it's Bishop Jakes and, everything. We're all brothers and sisters in this.
This conference is also about empowerment and education. TD Jakes has teamed up with Regent University to offer a school of leadership here on the site as well as beyond.
A todos, the Mega Fiesta. Is that what this is? I mean,
this conference is the first of its kind for the city of Dallas, and it's expected to pump millions of dollars into the city. But beyond that, it is changing people's lives with the gospel message. Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Dallas, Texas.
Up next, could you commit a crime and not even know it? How one man almost went to jail after that happened to him.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Welcome back. Suppose your cat killed a bird or a bird crashed into your window and died, and then a federal prosecutor showed up to put you in jail.
It may sound crazy, but that's what almost happened to one man. CBN's Paul Strand explains in tonight's Focus Reports.
Recently, a Texas oilman suddenly found himself facing a frightening fate.
While Bud Brigham was working at his offices here in the Austin area, little did he know that the death of 2 birds hundreds of miles away in North Dakota could threaten to put him in a prison cell.
His drill sites, like most, have waste pools next to them, and some birds land in them and drown. Brigham got word a federal prosecutor was making a special effort to find such dead birds.
Justice Department appointed me, apparently chartered a helicopter to go search for this, and flew around to all the different well sites in western North Dakota.
This prosecutor used what he found to charge 7 oil and gas companies with criminally killing birds, 2 mallards in Brigham's case, in violation of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. Now, this 1918 law was only supposed to be used on poachers or hunters deliberately and illegally killing migratory birds. But that didn't stop this prosecutorial team.
They had found 28 total birds and 2 on our well sites. And for 2 mallards, there were cash fines, but also that as CEO that I could potentially serve 2 consecutive 6-month terms in prison.
Vigrant Reddy fights for criminal and prison reform from a think tank in Texas.
It just seems completely absurd to think that you would lock somebody up for something like that.
I am a father of 5, with children from 8 to 17 years old, and to think that I could possibly go to prison for this for up to a year, it was just really almost, it was very surreal.
Even more surreal, if the government could have imprisoned these oil execs, it could theoretically throw any American in jail if they had any connection to a migrating bird's death. So the judge ruled he couldn't go along with what the prosecutor wanted because it would yield absurd results, like criminalizing farming, cutting brush and trees, driving, owning a building with windows, owning a cat, all of which end up killing birds. The government wanted to punish the oil execs for 27 bird deaths. But Judge Hovland pointed out power lines kill as many as 174 million. Cats, hundreds of millions. Crashing into windows, 97 to 976 million a year. Crashing into cars, maybe 60 million. So the judge wrote, to be consistent, the government would have to criminalize driving, construction, airplane flights, farming.
Every company that has power lines, every person with a home that the duck accidentally flies into, they would be criminally culpable.
So the judge tossed out the case. But you have to wonder why the government would go after these oil execs and not their fellow energy producers in the wind industry, which kills 33,000 to 250,000 birds a year with its wind turbines. Maybe this wasn't about the birds, but harassing an industry not green enough for the Obama administration.
There's been some criticism that perhaps the presidential administration isn't as enthusiastic about all the drilling as the drillers themselves and the people of North Dakota, frankly.
It does seem that there's hostility towards us. There was an EPA administrator here in North Texas that talked about crucifying the oil and gas industry to set an example.
Paul Rosenzweig co-authored the book One Nation Under Arrest.
Just as individuals can be subject to arbitrary and capricious prosecution, so too companies can be. Often they are disfavored companies who make products that somebody in authority thinks shouldn't be made, even though they're perfectly legal.
And with so many laws on the books these days, and more being added all the time, the government can find a way to prosecute almost any citizen or industry it wants.
On average, every American probably commits about 3 felonies a day.
Brigham says it feels un-American the way the feds have targeted him and tried to put him away.
We're being attacked by our own government, and it is startling and it's frightening.
Meanwhile, a favorite industry like wind gets away with literally littering the landscape with bird corpses. Some in government are even proposing this.
To give wind turbines the freedom to kill the bald eagle, the national bird. And here they go after us for a couple of mallards.
So here's maybe a matter of both over-criminalization and under-criminalization. Executives with the unfavored oil companies threatened with jail time for killing a couple of dozen birds, while those who build wind turbines, the darling of clean energy advocates, well, they kill tens of thousands of birds a year and never hear a word from the Justice Department. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Austin, Texas.
Well, up next, CBN News says goodbye to someone who's been a major part of our team for nearly 2 decades. Join us for that when we come back.
Stop struggling with heavy hoses that are kinked and deliver little or no water. Or worse, break. Introducing the incredible flexible hose. Turn the water on and it expands up to 3 times its original length, so you can easily guide it anywhere you need without tangling. When you turn the water off, as it drains, the hose retracts back to its original shape. Standard rubber hoses can weigh between 8 and 12 pounds, but a 25-foot flexible hose weighs less than a pound. The flexible hose is so compact and lightweight, a child can manage a 75-foot hose easily. The flexible hose will never kink and is guaranteed to take the mess out of watering your lawn and plants. So washing your windows or spraying off your gutters has never been easier. The flexible hose is made of a tough double wall construction that is designed to bend and stretch but never kink.
Flexible hose is designed like a fire hose for speed, storage, and strength to last a really long time.
Call or visit flexiblehose.com to order the incredible flexible hose for only $19.95. Call right now and we will include a 7-way adjustable spray nozzle free. You can choose a full action spray, a gentle mist, a powerful jet, a vertical mist, flat spray, a cone spray, or a soaker setting. So stop coiling your hose with bulky devices. Flexible hose automatically retracts in seconds and weighs less than 1 pound. In fact, a 75-foot hose easily fits in a small bucket and stores away neatly in a drawer. Flexible hose saves you precious space on boats and is perfectly portable for RVs. But wait, order today and we'll give you a second flexible hose system free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's 2 flexible hoses and 2 7-way adjustable spray nozzles, a $40 value, all for only $19.95. This offer is not available in any store. Order now.
To order flexible hose and take advantage of this amazing double offer, call 1-800-769-3384 or go to flexiblehose.com. Remember, this offer is not available in stores, so call now.
Today is a bittersweet day for our CBN family. After 19 years, news anchor Lee Webb is leaving us to join Ligonier Ministries in Sanford, Florida.
Yeah, Lee not only anchored the news on the 700 Club since 1994, he also anchored this newscast for 10 years before Mark joined me, and I had the privilege of working side by side with Lee. Well, here's a look back at some of his most memorable moments at CBN.
In 1993, I had made the fateful decision of giving a speech to a group of conservative, politically active Christians in Jacksonville, Florida. I had been anchoring the news for the NBC affiliate there for a number of years and spoke about the mainstream media's bias against them. And that speech got me suspended and ultimately fired from my job. One of the first phone calls, though, that I received after being suspended from my job was from Pat Robertson. And that phone call led to, a year later, him hiring me to be the news anchor for the 700 Club. Covering the Republican and Democratic conventions were some of the highlights of my time here.
Kerry, that he needed to explain to the American people the difference between himself and George Bush's.
By the time we got into the studio, it became apparent that our entire 700 Club broadcast for that day was going to be put aside, and this was going to be our coverage. And in fact, I think that Pat came over to the news set early on, and it was just Pat and me standing at the news set.
I went to a local church here in Slidell yesterday, and frankly, I didn't know what to expect.
One of the things I distinctly remember about my time in Slidell, Louisiana, after Hurricane Katrina, was worshiping at the Methodist church that had been destroyed by the floodwaters. The common bond that they experienced through that tragedy, knowing that their sovereign God still loved them and still wanted to hear their praises that morning. I think we were all excited that Gary Busey was going to be a guest on the 700 Club. I remember watching Terry interview Gary, and then there was a commercial break, and then I had a segment. So he just sat down next to me, and he decided he wanted to introduce that story.
He's not finished. He wanted to come over to the news, and so he wanted to know how I read the news. So we thought we'd give you the opportunity to read the intro to this story right here. It's a very important story.
It's very important for me too, and for everyone that's listening.
Right. What made it awkward was that the story was not any kind of lighthearted report. It was a very serious story about cancer and death. And so it was one of the most awkward moments, but it was also pretty humorous too. The thing that I will take away from over my 19 years here, the relationships built off the set, behind the scenes, being able to work with people that recognize the gifts and talents that God has given them, but the love and care and concern that everyone has here for each other, and it's been a great source of encouragement to me.
It just doesn't seem real yet that Lee's not going to be back, but his contribution goes, without saying.
Yeah, what a legacy. I'll tell you what, he was definitely somebody to look up to and just brought such a credibility to our programming.
Yeah, we wish him and his family all the best as they go on to Florida.
We do. God has a great new season for them.
That's right. And for CBN, well, you can go to our Facebook page and see a few photos from our farewell to Lee on the 700 Club.
You can also post your prayers and best wishes to him. And that's all for this edition of NewsWatch. Hope you'll join us next time and have a great weekend.
Great weekend. Bye-bye.